Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I kind of want to expand on something that I actually wrote a blog post about, which, if you didn't know, I do have a blog. It's aboutthesigns.wordpress.com, and I wrote about this topic, and I just want to film this video to add to that. So I wrote about how astrology isn't as powerful as some people might say, and over-identifying with your chart and letting go of that. In that blog post, I wrote about how our charts are not real. They're just based on past perceptions because our charts are based on our moon and our fourth house, which, if you don't understand what I mean by that, you can watch my video for the essence of Cancer, which is where I talk about that, of like how Cancer symbolizes the root that our chart stems from, and that root stems from the past. Our charts aren't really real because they're not based on anything in the present. When you identify with your chart, you're identifying with your past experiences, your past perceptions, your past behaviors. You're not really identifying with something real. It can still be occurring in the present if you haven't, I guess, learned to recognize when you're operating from those past perceptions, but either way, those patterns are rooted in the past, in your early environment, your experiences, your upbringing, all of these things that shaped your perception of yourself and your life. That's not really based on anything present. Your present identification with the chart is, but you have to consider why you're still doing that, which that's kind of what I want to talk about in this video, because maybe someone out there might need to hear this, because I know I can only speak from my personal experience, but almost 2 years ago now, I kind of had this realization about my own identification with my chart. And, you know, in the beginning, you really kind of just accept it because you're learning about yourself through astrology. But then the further that you go along with it and the more that you learn about what it's actually about, you kind of realize that it's not really real. It's not who you are. And I had to do that with myself. Like, I had to separate myself from astrology to understand who I actually was apart from it. And I just want to put this out there because maybe somebody is either at that point or, I don't know, could benefit to know that you're not limited by astrology. And of course, I'm sure a lot of people know that, but just in case, if you need this video, hopefully it'll help you. So to do it, how to actually not identify with your chart, or how to actually separate yourself from your chart. So you have to use a little bit of reality therapy. It's a really good technique because it's based on choice theory. So therapies that don't necessarily put a lot of emphasis on the past, they put more emphasis on, you know, the present, but more so like personal choice and personal responsibility. So reality therapy is based on choice theory, which states that you choose how you behave, and how you behave affects how you fulfill your needs, how your needs get met, basically. So William Glasser was actually like one of the key figures, or probably the key figure for reality therapy. And he says, he has an interesting perspective. Just, you know, hear this perspective out because it's probably going to sound triggering. So he said that people remain unhappy because of how they choose to behave. So he even went as far as to say that people shouldn't be labeled with a diagnosis. In his mind, he viewed a diagnosis as the description of people's problems. He basically just said that diagnoses are the descriptions of the behaviors that people choose in order to kind of cope with their problems. And I guess the reason why I'm saying that it might sound a little controversial is because he said that people remain unhappy based on their choices, and if the diagnosis shows those kinds of behavioral choices, you know, it can kind of come off as like he's saying that it's not really real, or it's not rooted in anything, perhaps even biological. If you look at it from the perspective of your behaviors, your choices are why you have problems, why you remain unhappy, it then puts the responsibility on you. The goal of that therapy is to try to help clients, as the therapist, better their lives by changing their choices, by making better choices, making choices that won't limit them. So you have to look at your chart as the diagnosis or the description of the choices that you make. Okay? So these choices that are found in the chart are based on the past, are based on your perceptions of the past, your perceptions of yourself. It's your own limitations, basically. You have to ask yourself, how is my identification with my chart interfering with my present circumstances and what I actually want to achieve? How is it getting in the way of my own happiness? The way that you're acting as your chart, that is the behavioral choice that you're making that is interfering with what you actually want to achieve. It's like you're just getting in your own way when you identify with your chart. And when you can look at it from this perspective, it kind of loosens that attachment to it or that identification with it, because I think doing this kind of just allows you to see it from a more objective place, that all it's doing is showing you the patterns that you're acting from that aren't necessarily always supporting you in the present moment. So I think it's important to remember that when you're studying astrology. Yes, astrology is fun, and it's always fun to use astrology. I don't think that anybody should let go of, charts or anything like that, because I think that this is why they're useful. But you have to still remain separate from it, because you have to recognize that it's not really you. And when you start going down that road, you start gaining a little bit more clarity on who you actually are in the present that isn't attached to this birth chart. I hope that this video kind of helped you. I know it was very brief, but I just wanted to put it out there. Let me know if you want to share anything about this perspective, or if you have anything else that you want to add, or maybe your own experiences with your identification or detaching from your birth chart. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you next time.